Buying in Breckenridge? These 5 mistakes can cost you thousands if you're not careful. So in this video, I am going to cover 5 things that you'll want to make sure you look out for when you're buying a condo or home in Colorado, specifically Breckenridge, Keystone, or anywhere here in Summit County. So first, a true story. I once had a buyer that was buying a condo in a ski and ski out resort. And luckily, during an inspection, they found with infrared testing, which can kind of see behind walls, if you will, they found behind a big picture on the wall, there was basically a soft drywall behind there that had from years of a slow drip and leak from the unit above had caused that drywall to just slowly erode and decay. Well, guess what? Unless you go around and look when you're buying a home and pull every single picture off of a wall, you're not going to notice things like that. So that brings us to the first point. You want to make sure that you get an inspection. It literally will save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. In the standard Colorado contract, there is a place in there that protects buyers. So you get usually roughly up to 2 weeks to perform an inspection. And that inspector will do a thorough job and look at everything as far as what's behind paintings, if you will, to if there are any broken latches on windows, to if there are any plumbing issues, things like that. Now, I do have to put out there this caveat. Inspectors will not go into every single detail in the home that other specialty inspectors will. For example, foundation. An inspector might tell you, hey, I'm concerned about this foundation. Let's get an inspector out there. Same thing when it comes to maybe a deck. They're like, you know what? This deck doesn't look safe. I see some concerns, so we might get a deck specialist out. Same thing with a roof, and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure you avoid the costliest mistake of all, which is not getting an inspection. Another costly mistake could be ignoring HOA rules. Now, again, when you purchase, the Colorado standard contract does a great job at trying to help protect buyers. There's going to be a deadline in there that gives you the opportunity to receive and then review all the HOA documents, from the financials to the bylaws, the decks and rules, all of these things. So what could cost you thousands? Well, something like this. In Keystone, in the River Run Village, animals are not allowed. Not dogs, cats, lizards, furry gerbils, nothing. So you want to make sure that you don't buy in an area where you think you can bring your pet only to find out it is forbidden. So now you've got to turn around and sell that condo so you can buy something else where you can bring your favorite companion. So that's just one example. Another thing is there could be a second HOA. That happens at certain resorts where it's not only the primary HOA, but you have a second. For example, the Breckenridge Mountain Master Association. It is tied to certain resorts like One Ski Hill Place, Crystal Peak Lodge, Mountain Thunder. These places and a few others all are part of this association, which is wonderful. It offers shuttle service among other advantages. But that said, it is an additional fee. So we don't want you caught off guard and not realizing that certain areas do have more than one fee. Another consideration when you are buying is location. Now, here in Breckenridge, not all areas are created equal. It can happen quickly where you are driving south on Highway 9, it's Main Street, turns back into Highway 9, and as you go further and further south and you go near Hoosier Pass, there is a neighborhood, for example, called North Star Village that is high. It is up there over 10,000 feet in elevation, and the snow conditions get that much more extreme. Listen, we know how to handle snow up here. That's not the issue. But what is the cost to be able to handle all that snow. Everything from snow removal, not only on the roads and your driveway, but also off of the decks, off of the roof, and everywhere in between. Wherever snow can go, it will go. So be sure you are prepared for that additional cost. You'll also want to consider any rental restrictions before you buy. You cannot get a new short-term rental license unless the area that you are purchasing allows it. I know people that have thought they could just buy or take over a certain LLC that maybe a certain property is owned under. It doesn't work like that up here. You do need to make sure that wherever you buy, you can either short-term rent or long-term rent if that was a consideration for you when you are purchasing your property. Some people just want to pay cash and only want to use it for their own personal use. In that case, you're golden. But for those that were hoping to offset some of their cost with the rental income, again, be aware that not every zone, there are 4 zones in Breckenridge, that not all zones will allow you to get that new license. Now, while on that topic, there are areas that have a Breckenridge address but are technically part of Summit County. So Summit County has different rules than Breckenridge. Also, Blue River, which is south as you're going out of Breckenridge, has different rules. So again, you'll want to work with a professional that knows all the ins and outs and make sure that you aren't buying a property without knowing what the rental restrictions are. The last costly mistake that I want to help you avoid is not considering all of the little fees that you need to consider. So we already talked about snow removal. There are HOA fees. You need to make sure you are accounting for everything that it takes to own here in alpine conditions. So our utility costs can fluctuate. Insurance rates. We do get wildfires near here, so you want to make sure that whatever insurance carrier you align yourself with, that they do cover in case of a wildfire. So again, that might cost you a little more than you were expecting. Very rarely, but sometimes properties are also in a flood zone, so you could consider getting flood insurance, which also will increase your cost. So those are just a few of the additional costs you need to consider: the snow removal, maintenance, all of these things, utility fluctuations. There's just so many different little things to consider. Now, if you want my buyer's checklist, be sure just to comment down below buyer's checklist. I'll make sure that I give you at least a good starting point so that you know everything to consider. And of course, you can always message me and I'll make sure to get back to you with any of your questions.